I'm back, and today I'm going over my UFC 308 fight predictions. And this is the first time I've ever done a full card, kind of a breakdown. Not necessarily a breakdown, you'll see what I mean. I'm just going to go over each fight and kind of give my opinions, starting with the prelims. But as you're going to see, they're going to get a bit more detailed as I go on. But for the prelims, I'm kind of just keeping it simple here because there's a couple of reasons why I'm doing that. First and foremost, there's been quite a few pullouts in this pay-per-view, and a couple of guys have come in who I've literally never heard of. So I just didn't get the chance to kind of review and kind of give my real thoughts. And second of all, I have a lot of thoughts about some of the main event fights, and I feel like if I break down every fight, I'll be here for an hour because I really have quite a bit to say about the last couple of fights. So as you can see here for the prelims, there are my picks: Ivo Aslan, Hinat Fakhretdinov, I hope I said that correctly, Ismail Nurdiev, Farid Basharat, Kennedy Nechukwu, Abus Magomedov, Saeed Nurmagomedov, and Miktibik Oralbai. So, yeah, as you can see, I'm not the best with names, but Abus Magomedov is one I want to focus on because I know quite a few people have kind of given him kind of trash for his lack of cardio and stuff. But if you go watch that fight with Strickland, and I think Strickland took that fight on short notice, or I think that was a fight where Strickland won and then like he went on to fight Adesanya after like 4 or 5 weeks. Abuz did really good in the first round. I mean, he did better than Costa did, right? So he looked good, and I think he'll get it done. Said Nurmagomedov, he had that fight, was it Gaffarat or who, but I called it perfectly, which was like Gaffarat comes in with his head low. Saeed's going to get him in a guillotine. He has one of the best guillotines in the UFC. So I caught that perfectly. And I really like Saeed. And I think he's also taking on a short notice opponent as well. So quite a few. I know Kennedy as well. He's taking on Chris Barnett, who's taking this on short notice. So quite a few pullouts here and there, but these are my prelim picks. And you're going to see that the prelim main event, sort of, Jeff Neal, Rafael dos Anjos, wasn't there. And that's because I feel like this is a bit more of an important fight. It's a bit more of an interesting fight. And I'm going with Jeff Neal by round 3 KO TKO. So, it's kind of funny because when I was thinking about this fight, I actually could have, like in my head, when I closed my eyes and thought about it, I was like, you know what? Rafael could just grapple him. He could just put him up against the cage, take him down. So I decided to kind of look up some of their stats, review a bit more, and I saw that RDA has a 36% takedown accuracy. But if you look at the numbers, he's landed 45. So he's had 191 takedown attempts. Like, this guy attempts a lot of takedowns, and 36% of those, it's still really impressive. But an equally impressive stat is, Jeff Neal's 88% takedown defense. That's almost perfect. So while RDA will shoot a lot, he won't get a lot. He does get quite a bit of them still. And he has more than, I know, Ankalaev and Rakic, who I'm going to be talking about later. They both have lower takedown accuracy than this guy, and I don't think they shoot as much as he does. So RDA, I think his grappling is a lot better than even I was thinking, but that 90% takedown defense for Jeff Neal is pretty insane. And then we know about Jeff Neal, he's got some of the best boxing in his division, and that's when he lets his hands go. He does have a bit of a tendency to kind of not, but he did give Vicente Luque a brain hemorrhage, and he put on a great fight against Shavkat, the toughest challenge for Shavkat yet, and he did get submitted in the last round, but RDA just on the feet doesn't have what Shavkat does. He's not as big of a challenge. I think RDA will be looking to kind of push the pace, get it down, make Neal tire out a bit. And I have confidence in Neal's boxing. I have confidence in his power that he'll survive. And regardless, maybe it'll be 1-1 going into the third. RDA, he's a bit older now. He's taken his damage throughout his career. He's been TKO KO'd by Fiziev. And now you do have to think that maybe Jeff Neal, with that crispy boxing and that great power that he has, he puts out RDA's lights out cold. So actually, I don't know if he'll KO him cold because, RDA, one thing you have to say is that he is very resilient and he doesn't really go out. But I could see Jeff Neal dropping him, hurting him in the last round, and following up with ground and pound and getting the win. So I'm going with Jeff Neal, third round KO TKO. Let me move on to the first fight of the main card. You could have argued Jeff Neal, RDA. They're both ranked. They should have probably been on the main card. But Sharabullah, I'm just going unanimous decision. So my thing with Sharabullah is he's quick. he doesn't have a lot of power in his hands. So he's knocked out that one guy whose name he's currently with Mackenzie Dern. I think that's how a lot of people know him. And he was making his UFC debut. He took him down with hands, I think. But aside from that, he's not known for his power. He's known for his real quick kicks. He's really good on the feet. Not the best takedown defense, not the best grappling, but when it comes to the feet, he's quick, he's fast, he's accurate, not a ton of power. But in a 3-round fight, I have confidence that he just gets a unanimous decision over Petrosian. So, yeah, it should be a fun one, but I do have confidence in Shara Bullet for this one. Now we move on to Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. Just a fight I really wanted to talk about. If you've seen my channel, anything about what I've posted in the past, I'm a big Rakic believer. I'm a big Rakic fan. I think Rakic is the best light heavyweight if he had a bit more resilience. He has everything: great striking, great grappling, decent power, but he does kind of quit. And I was watching that Yuri fight, and when he got tagged by Yuri, it wasn't even like he was badly hurt. It was more like he was just quitting at that point. Now, I was watching, I think it was Embedded. Yeah, it was Embedded, the recent episode. And Rakic's coach said that at the end of the round, Rakic went to his coach and was basically like, my leg is done, or I can't feel my leg. But even then, he was still having a great performance. He just got caught. He was making it a bit of a firefight. And maybe it was because he knew his leg was done. He knew he couldn't shoot a takedown. He knew he didn't have much, and he was like, I just need to finish this guy. And when you have that kind of mentality against Yuri, patience is what will win you a fight against Yuri, not let me go and play this guy's game. But Rakic really is incredible, and him and Ankalaev are so similar. Like, I'm going to make a video on this. Just how similar these guys have fought a lot of the same opponents, had a lot of the same kind of results, game plans, very similar. But and you see right here the exact same takedown defense, a near similar signature strike defense. Rakic does have a higher strike landed, but he does have a slightly lower, a takedown average. And funny enough, people talk a lot about Ankalaev's knockdown or his power in his hands versus Rakic. They both have roughly the same knockdown average. These guys, neither of these two are really big, heavy hand fighters, but Ankalaev does finish his opponents more often than Rakic does, right? Ankalaev did finish Johnny Walker recently. People talk about the Ian Kitolaba knockout. There's that. But they both beat Anthony Smith essentially the same way. Rakic got the walk-off decision where he just kicked his legs and then laid on top of him. And Ankalaev kind of, it's hard to say what happened to Smith's leg in that fight. He said he had a broken leg or a broken ankle. I don't even know if that was true. But look, even their average fight time, 11 minutes, just like a 20-second difference. These guys are so similar. And a lot of people are kind of fantasy booking the Pereira versus Ankalaev, and I'm just here going, I have Rakic winning, and I actually completely forgot to write it here. But yeah, I have Rakic winning by decision. And the reason why is Ankalaev, and I'm going to make a longer breakdown of why I believe this. He's in southpaw, right? His main style of fighting is counter punching with his left hand. He goes for the not the left hand, excuse me, his right hand. He goes for that check hook all the time whenever an opponent comes forward. And if you don't come forward, he's kind of just stuck, in the void, as DJ would say. And he's kind of just maybe leg kicking. He has leg kicks of his own, but Rakic has, I think, some of the best leg kicks in the UFC. They're quick. They're really fast. They hurt a lot. And on top of that, I just think Rakic is too smart to kind of play Ankalaev's game. I mean, Ankalaev is so fast. I was watching his fight with Jan Blachowicz, and it's insane just how whenever Jan would come forward, he would be ready, and he would just have that hook ready to check. And I don't see Rakic playing that game. And the way I see this fight going is Rakic is going to be on the outside, kicking the leg, come in once in a while, maybe try to land a jab. You can land a jab on Ankalaev, no issue. But it's the combos. When you try to come in for the combos, he is going to be looking to counter, and he is fast. So I could see Rakic maybe getting clipped once or twice and going, hey, I'm just going to stay out here and leg kick him. I'm not doing that. And I think the grappling is going to kind of cancel out. I think Rakic is too good at the takedown defense, as is Ankalaev. Now, I could see Ankalaev maybe taking up against the fence and kind of just wearing him out there. He kind of did the same thing to Thiago Santos. But I have confidence in Rakic's kickboxing ability. I have confidence everywhere, basically. And for power, they're almost equal. The only issue kind of is Rakic is he kind of lacks resilience. He will quit when the fight is going a bit rough, and we saw that against Yuri. But again, now that we got more information that hey, his leg, he's coming back from an injury. Apparently, he kind of like re-injured himself, or he wasn't at his best. Let's see. His coaches are saying this is the best fight camp. They all say that. But if it is, and he comes here 100%, he's the best light heavyweight in the world. And Rakic is a tough opponent, but I think Ankalaev's a tough opponent. I just think Rakic is going to chew his legs up and finish him. Or not even finish him. Maybe. You never know with Rakic. He did the Jimmy Manuwa, what was it? The uppercut straight and then the head kick. Maybe, but I think Ankalaev's just too good to get caught by something like that. But I see him winning maybe a 29-28 decision, and that's the scary part. This is in Abu Dhabi. If it's close, they might go Ankalaev. So I'm just betting on Rakic here. I love Rakic. I'm not betting, but I'm just really confident in Rakic to win. So I'm going by a decision. Oh, yeah, there's this fight. I was about to talk about Khamzat Chimaev, Whitaker. Yeah, Murphy, Ige. Ige's, by the way, one of the BMFs in the UFC. Took that fight with Diego Lopez on like super short notice, like a day's notice or something. I mean, come on, this guy is crazy. And he made the third round really competitive. But I just think Leo Murphy's going to just do his thing, right? Just make this kind of like a boring decision fight, maybe. Like, maybe that's a bit harsh, but I don't see him playing the Ige game of kind of getting in there and brawling. I think he's just going to kind of point fight, use control where he needs to, and just be smart and win his way to a 30-27, maybe 29-28 if Ige kind of comes at it. But I'm just going Leon Murphy, honestly. And then we move on to the co-main event, and this is the one I'm going to spend more time talking about than the main event, because literally for like the past 2 weeks I've been flip-flopping so much, and I want to give my reasons for why I'm going with Khamzat Chimaev. So for starters, kind of ignore the round one Darce choke. I literally don't know how Chimaev's going to win, and let me explain why I'm going with Chimaev in the first place. So I think the main argument against Chimaev right now is the fact that we saw him gas out against Kamaru Usman after the first round. He had an incredible round one, took him down, controlled him, gave him no opportunities. But then after that, he was completely kind of gassed out. Now, I want to kind of explain it from maybe Chimaev's point of view, right? If I was Chimaev, here's how I would view it, right? You got Kamaru Usman, who's 170 pounds. He's moving up to 185. 1 week's notice. He probably hasn't trained properly. We know his knees are bad. He hasn't been able to build himself into middleweight properly. He's probably like 200-ish pounds, and now he just has to cut weight. He doesn't get to build himself into the division properly. On top of the fact that he's on a 2-fight losing streak, Khamzat Chimaev got a lot of time off to kind of build himself into middleweight. And like all of the cards are in his favor, right? And so in his mind, it's probably like, hey, if I beat one of the pound-for-pound kings, I'm going to get myself a title shot. And so he just went out there with the idea of this guy, 1 week's notice, I'm going to take him out real quick. He almost does. I mean, he comes very close, but he fails at it. And then after that, he's kind of just on, let me not gas out here. Let me just do what I can. And even then, he takes Usman down again. So against Whitaker, 5 rounds. He knows this is a 5 rounds. He's known it. He knows Whitaker's coming here game. Whitaker's a natural middleweight. I think his game plan's going to be way, way different. He's not going to do the same thing to Whitaker he did to Usman, to Holland, to Li Jingliang. We talk about the Gilbert Burns fight. He did shoot a takedown almost immediately, but not even almost immediately. He backed Burns up, and when he saw the opportunity, he went for it. Against Usman, he was just spamming takedowns, and he got it. Like, this guy is really strong. And so I could see him doing the same thing here, kind of backing Whitaker up. When he sees a good opportunity, he'll go for the takedown. Now, Whitaker has excellent takedown defense. I think it's like 82%. But one thing about Whitaker, and this has to be said, Strickland's kind of the guy who said Whitaker just only has a 1-2 head kick. And once you kind of understand that, you beat him, which is what DDP did. And that is very simplifying Whitaker's fight style. But he's kind of not wrong in the sense. When I was researching for the DDP Adesanya fight, and I say research, I'm not over here with like test tubes and stuff. I'm just an MMA fan. I'm a fan of fighting. But I was looking up some of their fights, and I was watching DDP Whitaker. And you want to know the funniest thing was DDP knocked him down with the jab, right? When he threw that jab as Whitaker was coming in, DDP like backed up with his eyes closed, like almost as if he was not even confident the jab was going to land. It was really weird. Like you typically don't see high level fighters do stuff like that, but it just goes to show that DDP timed the Whitaker coming in with a jab he wasn't even confident with, and he dropped him. And that's kind of the joke I think about Whitaker, maybe that the jab is like his biggest issue, but that's because he stands up really tall and he just jumps in. And for a guy like that, the jab, the lead hand is always going to reach first. If you time him, you land it, you get him. And Chimaev does have a good jab and probably his best move. And I want to say I like Chimaev's striking. I know Chimaev is kind of seen as a wrestler. Against a Burns fight, he did something really interesting. He threw a straight, and then as Burns was kind of like ducking it, he threw a uppercut underneath, and it was really smooth. I mean, I was like, wow, I did not know Chimaev could throw like that. And I've been seeing a lot of his training stuff. He's doing a lot more boxing and kickboxing related stuff. So I do think we're going to see a stand-up fight here. And the great thing about Chimaev is he's good on the feet and he's excellent on the ground. Whitaker is good on the ground, but he's not going to be shooting on Chimaev. Like I don't think any of us are expecting Whitaker to be the one taking this to the ground. And Whitaker does have the tendency to kind of, when things aren't going his way, you could see him a bit of frustration, a bit of kind of losing it, sort of. I can't really think of the term, but with Chimaev, I'm just going round one, and I've seen everybody's kind of predictions. I've watched Guru, I've watched Lucas Tracy, I've watched Bedtime, and I think Bedtime put it best. Honestly, he said Chimaev he has plot armor, and I was like, you know what? That's funny. I could see that, like, is Whitaker going to be the guy to beat Chimaev? It's really hard for me to say he will be. I don't think Whitaker is the guy to beat Chimaev. And I love Whitaker. He's one of my favorite fighters. I would be completely okay if he got the win. But the way I see this fight going is Chimaev kind of pushes Whitaker back like he tends to do, right? He likes to pressure his opponents, get Whitaker up against the fence. And even if it's just for a second, Whitaker could try to move out of the way. I think Chimaev's going to immediately go for the takedown. And we've seen that he got judo thrown by DDP, and he got taken down and controlled the entire round. I think Whitaker is hard to take down, but if you find the perfect takedown, you get him down, he's not getting back up. And people are going to go, well, what about Yoel Romero? Dude, Yoel Romero is known for his crazy power. I get it. He was an Olympian. He was not known for his excellent wrestling. He was known for his power mainly. Like, he did not utilize his wrestling as much as a guy like Chimaev does. And I think that pace of Chimaev's, right, Whitaker bounces up a lot, moves around. When you're fighting a guy like Chimaev who's pushing you back and forcing you to wrestle, you can't be as accurate as Whitaker is. And by the way, Whitaker's power, if you're a unranked Iskarov taking the fight on like short notice, he'll get the knockout, but he's not really knocking out anybody else. I don't see him knocking out Chimaev, and Chimaev has a great chin. I mean, Burns, I mean, fair point, right? Lightweight. And all that. You can say what you want, but the guy was landing clean on him, and Chimaev went down, immediately shot a takedown. And I love to see that with fighters, where if this guy gets hurt, I know he can shoot a takedown, and I know Chimaev can. Whitaker can, but he won't get it. Chimaev, he can. So I'm going round one Darce choke just because this fight is like such an anomaly, and the problem is Chimaev barely fights, so it's like I don't have much to go off of. Like, the Usman fight maybe, but not even that. So it's just a feeling. Really, this is just a feeling. I could get this entire card wrong. Like, the main card is so close. Like, all the fights are so close. I could get all of this wrong. So I'm kind of freaking out here. But I am going Chimaev by round one Darce choke. I just think he has a good Darce choke. He got it with Holland, and he has a good squeeze on it. So I am going to go Khamzat Chimaev. And I know it's 5 rounds. I don't think it goes 5 rounds, though. I think Chimaev, if he doesn't finish the fight by the 3rd round, in the 4th round, I could just see his corner kind of pushing him, and if he still doesn't get it, this fight won't hit the 5th round. I see his corner just throwing in the towel. Like, this guy will be so exhausted. It's not even his gas tank that's the issue. It's the pressure. It's the intensity of his fights. We don't know his real gas tank because he never slows down. His fight style is so high, heavy pressure. And even against Gilbert Burns, they were both exhausted because the fight was so, high intensity, a lot of damage going around back and forth. But I am going to go Chimaev by submission, round 1. And now we ended off with the main event, which I've already made a video on. Ilya Topuria versus Max Holloway. I'm going with Topuria by KO, TKO, round 2, maybe round 3, but I'm going round 2. And Yeah, I mean, what can I say that I haven't already said? I am more confident about this pick than I am most of the other ones. Like I love Rakic, but Ankalaev could make it close. I have confidence in Chimaev, but at the same time, Whitaker. I know Holloway is game. I know I'm not taking anything away. One of my favorite fighters, always brings it, a true BMF. But everything I've watched thus far from Tupuria makes me confident he gets it done. And before you guys look at like the screen and go, "Oh my gosh, he's comparing Holloway to Jai Herbert," Jai Herbert, as bedtime would call a jobber maybe, but I'm not doing that. I'm just posting it because finding gifs is pretty hard anyway. Like I couldn't really find a good Volk one. But hear me out. Here's why I'm going to Tupuria, right? First of all, let me just talk about Holloway and where I think he excels. Holloway has a really good spinning kick. I saw the ESPN UFC account post about that. I've been saying this for a while. If you watched the third Volkanovski fight, he was landing that constantly. I mean, he was continuously landing that. Every time he threw it, he would land it. And against Gaethje, he broke his nose with it. Now, Tupuria is kind of like Volkanovski, shorter, more in his stance. I don't know if he'll be able to time it directly on the nose of Tupuria, which would be crazy. But he did what he landed to the body, and his spinning kick is like strangely low. It's not like a really high spinning kick. It's a pretty low one. And I could see him continuously landing that to Tupuria's body. And then Holloway, again, he's quick. When he gets going, when he's in his flow state, there's no stopping him. But his biggest, I think, weaknesses, and we saw this in the third Volk fight. And again, Tupuria and Volkanovski are actually really similar. The only difference is Volkanovski is much more kickboxing style. Tupuria is more boxing, and Tupuria has a much better defense. I'm sorry. Volkanovski relies, I think, a lot more on slipping and head movement. Tupuria is much more on blocking the shots if it comes to him, shoulder rolls, incorporating the head kick, the head movements and all that. But Volkanovski was, anytime he would come in for a quick combination, Holloway didn't really have anything. He would try to block it with his arms. He would try to parry it. When he couldn't do that, he would lean down and he would try to come over with like a looping shot. I just don't see Tupuria with his amazing defense getting caught by anything like that. Holloway also has a tendency to like jump in, and he'll like raise his foot like he's going for a stomp and not do it. And I think he's been cracked before. Like he's pretty open when he does that. If Tupuria times a right hand, I mean, who knows? And I was watching his interview with Mighty Mouse, and Mighty Mouse was kind of giving him the entire secret, like, oh, Tupuria likes to get guys up against the fence and stuff. Holloway knows that. We all know that. But the difference is Tupuria doesn't really get them up to the fence as much as what he does is he gets you moving back. He pressures you. He gets you moving back. And then once he sees that your back's pretty close to the octagon, he kind of lets go a combination. And Holloway, of course, moves a lot. I don't think he's just going to stand there like most of Paulo Costa's opponents do, which is why he gets his combos off. If you watch the Yoel Romero fight, Yoel literally just stands against the octagon, lets Costa get a combo off. Holloway's going to be moving. I get that. But the thing with Tupuria, and one of the big reasons I'm also picking him, I forgot to mention this, I love it when I know a guy can struggle wrestle. If Tupuria at any point gets clipped and he gets dropped, I have confidence he will struggle wrestle. He could get up. He could take him down. I don't have confidence Holloway can take Tupuria down if he gets hurt. So I love it when a guy has a backup, because then I can go, hey, if he does get hurt, I know he'll do this. He got badly hurt against Jai Herbert. And people are going to, of course, disrespect Jai and say, he's a jobber at lightweight. I mean, still, that doesn't really change the fact that he was able to crack Tupuria. He's a lightweight. And Tupuria came back and gave it to him like he needs to. And Tupuria's power, I'm seeing people say, like, I really hate it when people say, oh, well, Volkanovski got KO'd by Makhachev. He came back too quick, and that's why he got KO'd. Like, if Tupuria threw a jab and it KO'd Volkanovski, I could understand. But Tupuria had him backing up with his chin up in the air in a single line. Like, anytime Volkanovski would back up, he would move in a single straight line, chin in the air. Tupuria literally timed the perfect shot, sat on it, and Tupuria typically likes to overswing a lot. So he did everything that he needs to for a KO, right? Sat on it, swung with intensity, and KO'd Volk. It had nothing to do with Volk's chin or anything like that. And so and I know Holloway's hard to stop. I know that he's very difficult to finish. I get that. But I just think Topuria is at that point right now where he's going to get those boxing combos. I think anytime he goes for the combo, Holloway's going to try put his arms out kind of like the zombie style, try to look for the parry. And I could just see him getting clipped. And I don't know if he'll go out cold. Go a guy like Holloway, excuse me, very hard to put out. But I could see him getting up against the fence, landing one of those combos, the same combo he landed on Josh Emmett and had him wobbly. He got the first, not the first, but one of the first 10-7 rounds in the UFC, like one of the very few. Don't know if I agree. I think maybe 10-8, but 10-7 is a bit killing it, a bit crazy. And I'm sorry, but dude, Gaethje is not technical. Like, I know people try to pretend like he is because of his Fiziev performance. I mean, that fight was extremely close, and I don't think he's as technical as people give him credit for. That was a masterclass from Holloway. And I think Topuria is a lot more. The skill gap, obviously, when you go lower, is typically higher. And I think Topuria is just a lot better. And I'll give Holloway credit, but he's fought like Arnold Allen. He's fought Korean Zombie, Gaethje, a lot taller guys, a lot less maybe technical, and definitely not like Topuria, where they come in with the boxing combos and have great grappling to go with it as well. So I'm very confident in my pick of Ilia Topuria. I'm going round 2, KO, TKO up against the fence, up against the octagon. It's the fence or the octagon. I'm kind of losing it. Sometimes when I start recording, it's like I start talking more than I should because I'm like thinking as I'm talking. But that's why I typically add like GIFs, and I add this PowerPoint because it kind of helps me remember, hey, what am I supposed to talk about? Let me stay on track. And I'm glad I did this, because if I added the prelims into it and I broke down each prelim like this, I'd be here for an hour. But maybe next time, 309, maybe 310. I don't know which one is the stacked one. I'll look at that one. But yeah, I mean, Topuria, you can see from these any highlights of his or anything, he's just so defensively sound, great power, great striking. And I'm going to keep yapping, so I'm just going to end it there. Topuria, KO, TKO, round 2, maybe round 3. You heard it here first. If I'm wrong and he gets absolutely demolished, feel free to mock me for it. I don't care. I like Holloway too, but I'm very confident in Topuria winning this. And even maybe a decision, who knows? Like, he could put the grappling in. If he's in trouble at round 3, at the end of round 3, he will grapple. And I can't say that about Holloway. If Holloway is down heading into the round 4, round 5, he can't grapple with him, but Topuria can. So I'm very confident in my pick here. Topuria, round 2, maybe round 3. And I'll end it on that note. Can't wait for the pay-per-view, looking to be absolutely stacked. And yeah, I'll see you in